So from what I understand with this workshop, it's obviously a co-ed workshop. You're working with men and women. You're working with polarity and sexual intimacy. So it seems like somewhat dangerous waters to wade into, and it can, a lot of things can come up, I would imagine, in that type of setting. So how do you guys as facilitators work with the participants so that it becomes a safe place for them to do this? How do you set that up so that it's, obviously they're pushing into things, but how do you manage that as facilitators, and how do the attendees drop into a level where they can really go where they need to go?
We create a circle of trust, and that's by building the container before they even get there. We are very diligent and particular in how things are set up, so that they're set up to ease everyone's nervous system so that they can feel taken care of. The directions are clear and concise in how things work. You can expect that to stay consistent throughout the entire workshop. So with that set up before you even come, so that you can just walk into a zone that is safe and deep. The second piece is navigating it moment by moment, right? Because when these things come up, we as facilitators are constantly navigating the room, feeling the room, surfing the room. And so when someone's issue comes up, we're right there with it. We're feeling them, we're addressing it. And often, to be completely honest, when someone kind of slips sideways like that, something feels a little dangerous and it comes up and they verbalize it, it helps the whole room, because they see themselves in that person, and then we address that, and that turns into a group exercise that really works for them. The third thing is just communication. We just talk about it. We say this, what happens here stays here, that famous saying, and we set it up so that this is a heart-to-heart process where we're here feeling your hearts and responding sometimes to your heart, not so much your words. Sometimes people are saying, I'm bothered about this. My husband does this. My husband does this. He leaves his socks out. And then something underneath it needs to be teased apart and pulled up. And so that is done gently, carefully, and yet strongly.
Well, and we're dealing with life force energy, and some people would say sexual energy, but we're dealing with it in an energetic construct. And life force energy is chaotic by nature. And so, most people spend their life suppressing all these issues because they don't want to be embarrassed, they don't want to look bad. But like Jason just said, pretty much everyone's issue is everyone's issue. And so we do these videos so that you recognize that pretty much, first of all, we've heard everything, and second of all, it's going to serve the entire room, and third of all, it helps make it more personal if you volunteer and your trigger comes up, because then we can help you navigate that trigger. And it's incredibly fulfilling when you can actually move through something and get to the other side of it, because that also empowers the relationship, so that when a trigger comes up later, you've already moved through a big trigger. If you did it once, you can do it again and you can move through it. But life force energy is chaotic, and so it stirs the pot. So just even having the conversation at first brings stuff up for people. It's amazing how you just open a conversation and suddenly there's triggers going off, and we haven't even done anything yet. We're actually just beginning the process to have that conversation. But how often people don't have these conversations, and many times in the feedback that we've gotten in doing this workshop and these relationship workshops, people are like, I've never met anybody who can talk as openly and as freely and as easily as all of these facilitators. But it's because we've done our own work. And so any issue anybody has, trust us, we've probably been through this a couple of times. And so we've got a lot of ideas. And so we love this work. This is our passion. We love helping people open up in intimacy. We love seeing couples come in that are on the verge of a total meltdown in their relationship, and then actually see the whole thing just explode open instead of collapse in. And that's what this workshop's about.
Another piece to that, which I think we do that's unique, and it's a feature that takes some skill, but I love that. Say something comes up for someone, so anger comes up. Maybe the first step of dealing with anger would be I'm just going to leave and go deal with my anger myself, right? I'm leaving. Maybe the second step is let's talk, Suzanne. Let's deal with my anger and let's transform that to love. In our workshop, we'll say, oh, you've got anger. Let's make art of that. How can that be an expression of my deepest love? How can that, I'm not running from it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm going, yeah, how's anger? And that's where that transformation process is where you started this question with. There's a little bit of the danger comes into it. But when you start to play with that, then you stop running from all your emotions. You stop trying to transform and lock down all your emotions. That they just kind of come up and you go, oh, I can play with anger. I can love with anger.
And what he said is exactly it. It's like we're not trying to fix a problem. We're trying to create permission for it to be expressed. And in the expression of it, it actually transforms and it is informative. Because oftentimes we don't inform our mate because we're afraid if we say what we're feeling, then they're going to withdraw love. We always have this fear of loss. And what you find is that your mate, if they love you, they want to know what's going on. They just don't want to be blamed. They don't want to be attacked. And so there's always this way that we can express, like, I'm having this experience and I'm so frustrated and I don't know how to get through it. And then as you move through it, and it opens up a greater sense of trust with each other. So again, we're not trying to fix it. Art is full of mistakes. I mean, art, if you look at any art, like, you and I read books, and he and I are both writers, and you read a book and you're unpacking, like, oh, there's an error, oh, there's an error, and there's always errors in art. I mean, we're not trying to be perfect. We're actually trying to be creative. And in that creativity, it's messy. It's not really designed to be perfect. But there's so much beauty in the messiness. I mean, I love seeing the depth of my man when he messes up and he's still trying and he's still in the game and he hasn't quit yet and he's royally messing it up. But there's something so sweet about it because he's trying and he's trying this and trying that and trying this and trying that until eventually something will work. And there's such a compassion that you learn to have for each other in that dance.
And plus, there's a little bit of a blues musician, a little sludginess to it. You screw up on the scale and you do the wrong note and you go, oh no, that was perfect. Mm-hmm. And that becomes part of the art. Mm-hmm. So you got to learn to do that. And that's one thing we'll do to teach men.
Mm-hmm. It is that dance of that art. I mean, it's like, I think sexuality and intimacy and the yoga of intimacy is like creating music, but harmonies between the two of you. And women especially, I mean, they love to kind of push and tease in their own unique way. And women like to tease just to see if their man is going to collapse. And it's very unsexy if the man collapses. And so a woman doesn't want her man to collapse, so sometimes she won't challenge him. But if the man understands that there's a joy and bliss in the feminine when she's pushing on him a little bit and he knows not to collapse, and then he learns to tease in his own way and to kind of push back in his own way with humor, and there's a joy and sort of this spontaneous playfulness that happens. That is what you see in long-term couples, that there's just a sweet playfulness and teasing quality that is very deeply personal and intimate, and that's what we all want. We want somebody who can really be with us in these little messy places and doesn't dump us.